You're listening to the Life Purpose Advisor podcast, episode 17.
Things like, is it okay to kill snails? Do you know when they were in my garden? I don't remember the answer exactly, and I loved how it was put, but really the answer is everything, there is no right or wrong. If you choose to kill a snail, then you will learn, you'll have different experiences from that. If you choose not to, you will have different experiences from that, and so will the snail.
You're listening to the Life Purpose Advisor podcast.
Life purpose, spirituality, higher calling, personal growth, meaningful life.
We ask the deep questions about living a balanced life of meaning, purpose, and joy.
Passion, know thyself, be mindful, spiritual practice, aha moments, life lessons, balance.
It is time to welcome your host, Angie Swartz.
I'm so excited about the guest that we have for you today. Beth Banning has gone through quite a transition in the last few years. So let me tell you about her quickly, and then we'll get right to her story. Beth Banning is a best-selling author, an inspirational speaker, and a spiritual catalyst who has written numerous books, including the Meditation for Life series and her newly released book, Interviewed by God. She has also co-created the Pathway to Personal Freedom and the Art of Conscious Connection seminar series. After many years of integrating this consciousness-shifting work into her own life and teaching it to others, she experienced a profound reconnection with God that turned her life upside down. This radically changed the way she perceives the world and functions in it. Beth now lives her life guided by her inner source of divine wisdom. She is committed to helping others discover this for themselves and to fully experience the essence of who they truly are. Beth, welcome to the show today.
Hi, how are you? Thanks for having me.
It's my pleasure to have you. You're so welcome. I'm so excited to hear about this experience that you had and talk to you a little bit about life purpose. Know Thyself is one of the big modules of the program that I work with people on, and I'm not sure that anybody can get to know themselves better than you have with this experience that you've had over the last few years. So can we talk just a little bit about that, about how this project, Interviewed by God, came about and what that was like for you?
Sure. Let's see, where would I even start with that? I was guided to write the book, so the book itself is Interviewed by God. And what had happened was that I had as you said, a profound spiritual awakening or expansion, whatever you want to call it. I'm still not quite sure what to call it. But it really changed the way that I saw the world and I lived in the world. You know, it's funny because when you asked me to come on the podcast and you told me it was about life purpose, it's just so interesting because my whole perspective on life purpose has really changed with this experience. So I was really excited to talk about that because I haven't ever. So, you know, if you had asked me, 6 years ago what my life purpose was, I could have told you. It was really simple. I knew when I was about 15 years old what it was. It just kind of smacked me in the face, and I just couldn't help but do that. And what it was, I had this experience in high school. I lived upstate New York, and we were having race riots at the time. And in my high school, we had, I guess it was junior high actually, there was a race riot going on, and I remember hearing, the principal going, everybody out of the school, get out quickly as you can, calmly, blah, blah, blah. And I remembered going, oh my God, where's my little brother? And I went looking for him, and I saw him at the top of the stairs. And as I turned to run towards him, I saw a kid push him down the stairs. And he tumbled down. I ran over to him and, picked him up. He was okay. A teacher came over and helped. And the teacher kind of got us to the door moving out. And we lived about 10 blocks from school. So, I remember running home. And the only thing I could think of is why is everyone so angry? You know, I mean, kids that we were friends with the day before, all of a sudden we were like on different sides of, you know, we were like, it was a war and we were on different sides. And it blew my mind. I didn't get it. Like, why is everybody so angry and what's going on? So, you know, I saw my mother, you know, kind of, I guess she had heard what was going on at the school, and I ran up to her. She hurried us inside, and as soon as it calmed down a little, I said to her, you know, why is everybody so angry? What is going on? And she said to me, and I mean, you know, I'm like, you know, in those moments where you go, oh my God, my mother is like, you know, I think back on it, I go, how profound, you know, she was. And she said to me, when people aren't heard and they're ignored and they're not listened to and they're not supported, they get angry. And in that moment, I realized that something was amiss. I mean, how could we treat each other that way? And really, you know, I didn't get it like so clearly in that moment, but looking back on it, that's really what started me on my path to helping people have better relationships with themselves and others. So that's really was my life purpose. And as I look back, it followed me. You know, it was like all my friends would ask me, you know, for advice on relationships. You know, when I got into relationship with my husband, he was all about, you know, the same kinds of experiences he had as a kid, not like race riots, but, you know, really noticing how people just, we miss each other. Do you know? It was like, we just don't get each other. And as I developed, my husband and I developed kind of this whole seminar series, we realized, you know, all kinds of reasons why. I mean, it's cultural and how we're raised and all kinds of things that go on in, you know, the cultures we grow up in. But I was really clear for a very long time that was my life purpose. Then when I had this expansion, the spiritual awakening, it was triggered by my mom getting sick and moving in with us. And I was such a worker. You know, it's funny. I always called my dad kind of a workaholic. And looking back, I picked that up really well, except for I, you know, was very purposeful about it. When my mom moved in, I just couldn't continue the way I had been working, because like Neil and I had this huge mission to really affect millions of people and help change the way they related to one another. And when she moved in, you know, I was caring for her, like, you know, changing her diapers and dressing her and feeding her, and I just couldn't, you know, write all the blog posts and do, you know, what it takes to actually get out in the world. So everything kind of shifted and changed, and I reevaluated everything. And what happened after my mom passed, you know, these stories are all in my book, and I'm not sure how to make the evolution of this idea of life purpose the short version, but when I had this awakening, I realized that my purpose is really to experience life. That is now my life purpose, is to experience life. And all the things that I used to call my life purpose are really the ways in which I experience life. I don't know if that makes sense, but in me, it was such a dramatic shift because I went from almost frantically fulfilling on my life purpose, like it was essential that I did that before I died. You know, that I affected people and changed things and, you know, made a difference, to this peace. You know, I don't have another way to describe it besides this deep, profound peace that if I don't affect a thing and I just experience life, I have achieved what I'm here to achieve. Now, I continue, you know, helping people and doing things and do as I'm guided to do, but there's this quality of intensity, like this frantic striving that's gone. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. It makes perfect sense. Can we just talk a little bit more about your process, too?
Sure.
That's a very rich conversation that I think many people don't have with themselves about joy in experiencing life. Like I've asked many people, what brings you joy? And folks can't answer that question. It's an intimidating ask. But I remember when you were in it, like when you were in the process of being interviewed by God, and you could do very little else. Like I remember you saying to me, like, I don't really have much of a choice about how I spend my time. And I remember you talking about having to be listening. And can you just tell our listeners what that was like? And how did you know? How did you know it was God speaking to you?
Oh, that's such an interest. I mean, there's even in that question, there are several questions. You know, how did I know it was God speaking to me? You know, it's funny because God was actually never the word that I used for my divine source of wisdom, my, higher self, all that is. That's kind of the expression of that I used most of my life. I knew it was God talking to me because really what I did was ask, what do you want me to call you? Because I actually do a written process of conversation with God. It's called active imagination. It was kind of a modified Jungian exercise called active imagination that I learned from a guy named Tim Kelly, who does True Purpose. And he kind of modified, it's done by several people. Neil Donald Walsh, it's what he does. And so you actually write your name. So I write Beth, and then I ask a question, and then I write God, and let God answer. So when I first started the process, I said, what do you want me to call you? And the first answer I got was something like, it really doesn't matter. And I said, okay. And then as we discussed this, I was like, but I have to call you something. All that is too long. I guess I could have, done acronyms, but I'm not very good at them. At one point, I don't remember where it shifted, but I said, look, I think it's important to have a name that, just like feels good. And I got Call Me God. So how do I know it's God? Because I was told to call it God. So that's the answer to that question. You can name it anything you want. And for me, it is that higher source of knowing or wisdom that we're all connected to. Every single one of us is connected to that, whatever you want to call it. It's that oneness, that field of knowing that we can all connect into if we want to. So that's how I knew it was God. Going back to something else that you said, it's so funny because you really did see me right when I was in the middle of that beginning process of expansion. And I very much cloistered myself at that time because, like you said, I couldn't do anything else. I was so filled with spirit. I was so present, so expanding, so aware of my surroundings. And I don't know for sure, but I think what was happening was that I was expanding into who, and that's why I call it an expansion. I was expanding my ability to hold light or hold spirit or hold God within me. And that initial period, I couldn't do much else besides meditate and walk on the beach and do yoga to move the energy. I mean, it was just very intense. Yeah, it was a really interesting period. It really was.
And if I might ask,
yeah,
I'm sure you cover this in the book. I haven't read it yet. I'm very excited to read it. What kinds of things did you and God talk about?
Oh my gosh, you name it, we talked about it. I'm funny. A lot of people, and I support people now in having, actually trying this process. It works for about 85% of the population, that you can actually just relax into allowing that source to come through you, flow through you, and you get some of the most profound answers. Everybody I talk to and everybody I help connect in this way, I am always shocked how profound the answers are. One thing that I do that I don't see a lot of other people doing is that I get really picky. I'm like, if I don't get the answer, or if I don't get an answer I like, or if I don't understand it completely, I keep asking for more and more clarification. I mean, we have talked about everything from reincarnation and, life purpose and oh my gosh, the meaning of life, to things like, is it okay to kill snails? They were in my garden, and I'm like, I didn't know quite.
And what was the answer? Is it okay?
It's so interesting. It actually is in my book somewhere. I don't remember the answer exactly, and I loved how it was put, but really the answer is everything. There is no right or wrong. If you choose to kill a snail, then you will learn, you'll have different experiences from that. If you choose not to, you will have different experiences from that, and so will the snail. Is kind of the really, really condensed version of that conversation. I'm not sure. There was something, there was something else in there around snails are living creatures and alive for what they're wanting to experience. I don't remember exactly, but what I got out of it was what feels good to you. And not killing the snail felt good to me, so I didn't kill the snail. So there you go.
Right, got it. So going back to what you said, your purpose is to be here and to experience life. Is that under the auspices of you're a spiritual being and your job here on earth is to have a physical experience?
Yeah, that's a really, really, we hear it, if you're in the kind of new age realm, you hear that all the time. And those sayings are here because there's truth to them. When you hear it, you get there's truth. So, the very short answer is, we're a spiritual being having a human experience. It's funny because, you go, oh, yeah, got it. But then most people don't experience life, even spiritual people. We run around and we're so busy and we do not just have life. Even in these moments when, I love doing interviews. I love doing these things where my habitual way could take over so easily. I'm from New York. I talk fast. We can banter back and forth. And those times are such opportunities for me to breathe and slow down and feel you on the other side of the phone. Be able to be present in the room I'm sitting in, feel the air on my skin, and know that's all I'm here to do with you. That's what I'm here to do. And if I allow myself, and when I allow myself to do that, magic happens. And I can't even know whether it'll happen for anybody listening or whether it'll happen for you, but it happens for me. And my experience, and it's been really interesting, is that I get told so often now that it's almost funny that I'm so real, that I'm so authentic. And really all I do is slow down and breathe,
Well, that's the truth of it. I love a quote that I heard recently from Oprah's Super Soul Sunday that said, we want life to be a train, but when in fact it's actually a sailboat. And it's just a specific way to put you right in that moment. There's so much richness in diving into the deepness of every minute. And I feel so grateful that I know that. Lots of people aren't there.
And I'm not very often, It's so funny because that is one of the cosmic jokes, when people are striving for some idea of awakening or enlightenment or, something different than they have. And my experience of what I have gone through isn't that all this other stuff goes away. It's just that I don't make it mean anything anymore. Do you know what I mean? It's like, it's still there. I watch it. I can go, oh, wait a minute. Oh, slow down. When I had first started going through this whole thing, honestly, I thought all I would do from that time forward would be to meditate, to be quiet, to do yoga, to just commune with God. Just truly, it's what I thought I would be doing because it was such a profound experience, and why would I want to do anything else? And I was very clearly told that I was not meant to be a monk. I was not meant to live in a cave. I was really meant to be out in the world and to be an example of spirit embodied. And what I love is that I don't know if I'm that or I'm not, but it's being out in the world gives me every moment an opportunity to be that. And what I loved about hearing that is all I have to be is me, and the me is then an example, and then that's my purpose.
It's all you can be, right? It really is all you can be is yourself.
Right. And experience that. It's such a trip. It's so much easier than, we think it is.
For sure. Earlier you mentioned that what kind of started this process was your mother moving in and you having to slow down. But was there anything specific that you think triggered this conversation to start happening? Like anything that you can point to that's you tripped over something in your life, or you got frustrated, or you got quiet, or what drove you to this place?
Well, drove me. It's funny.
Well, the butler.
That's right. My car drove me. It's interesting because it kind of went in phases. Actual conversation, and I'm so grateful. In the beginning of this process, most of my information came kind of intuitively. And, there are seers and there are hearers and there are knowers. I know they're called something actually much more
omniscient, omniconscious.
Those guys. But so I'm a knower. Like I just know I know. Do you know things when they come through? I don't mostly, I have on occasion actually heard something with my ears or seen something, but mostly I just know it. So
let's just tell the listeners what we're talking about a little bit more. So there are various types of intuition. If you look those up, you'll see what they are. There's clairvoyance, there's clairaudience, where clairvoyance is where you see things, clairaudience is where you hear things, hear voices, and omniconscious, which is what Beth's talking about, which is also what I am also, where you just know how things work and you're not sure how you know that.
How you even got that information.
Or something comes into your conscious space and you know it's the right answer for yourself or someone else. And I believe everybody has some kind of intuition. The question is just whether or not they cultivate it. Do you believe that as well?
Yes, I do. Yeah. This is part of who we are designed to be, and it's just fallen away because of, cultural. I mean, we're not taught to cultivate that.
Right.
We're taught to actually just ahas, but it was bigger than that. I don't know the word I'm looking for in this point, but epiphanies, that was the word. Like a crazy epiphany that I had, that really my biggest loss was that my imagination was, like I was told my imagination was just my imagination and not something to cultivate. Do you know what I mean? So that if
you think it, there's something to it.
Right. Right. And we're taught, unless you can prove it, see it, feel it, that it's not real. So then, our intuition really is not in that category. So we're told it's our imagination. It's not to be paid attention to. We're, outside of us is the authority that we should listen to. So we really are taught out of these natural states. That it's a sad thing, but I see so much of what's happening now where people are waking up all over the place. I'm so very heartened by that.
I think the children that are, the next generations of children, they'll have a quite different experience.
And they're coming in wholly different. I don't know if you've seen any of these little kids coming in lately, but I mean, they are coming in so honest and so real and so connected. It's such a beautiful thing.
I'm lucky. My biggest teacher is a little 9-year-old that I live with.
There you go.
I get to see that every day. Do you have a daily spiritual practice that you'd like to share with everyone?
Well, I have a couple. I do meditate every day, but I don't meditate for any particular length of time. It's just a commitment I have to quiet each morning.
So are you in silent meditation? Are you listening to something guided, listening to music? What's your process?
I do silent meditation. Again, I take probably an hour in the morning and I do several things. So I meditate silently as long as I am enjoying it. So sometimes it's 10 minutes and sometimes it's a full hour or longer. And then when I'm done with that, I do my actual dialogue with God. So I do that every day. And that is such a gift to me. Even if I don't have questions, I'll ask, what is there for me to do today? And I get answers. And I do those things. So those are my two, which I kind of call my one morning meditation, my ritual in the morning.
Thank you for that. And could you ask in your dialogue, could you ask God to do something for you, like change the weather?
That's great. I could ask.
And have you ever experienced
that? I've never done that. No, I haven't. And like I said, I'm pretty bold when it comes to asking for things, but I've never asked. That's such an interesting question because I have never asked for anything to be different than it is. I've asked for advice, guidance about situations, but I've actually never asked for things to be different. That's so interesting. I didn't even realize it until you said it.
Well, that's my assignment to you, Miss Beth.
To ask for things to be different?
Ask for rain or ask for wind. See what you can
come up with.
But I can
manifest. I'm not even sure, and that's so interesting because I'm not even sure that I'd want to. And I'd have to actually think about that if I'd even want to ask for something to be different than it is. Because just in the kind of being with what is, maybe just to see what would happen, because, I'm curious. And then how does that work? One of the fascinating things about that kind of guidance, and one of the things that really trip me up and trip a lot of people up that I work with, is that when you ask for guidance or even ask for something, I would imagine, and it doesn't happen the way you're guided or the information you get is different than what happens, then people stop trusting themselves. They think it's, not true or their imagination, or they become disheartened or lots of less than satisfying ways of being. And what the information I got and how it sits in me as truth is that everything is energy. And when energy changes, things change. So when I asked about, hey, you told me this and this happened, what's with that? What I got was everything's energy. And when energy changes, things change. So all you can actually get is the information for how the energy is moving in that moment. But if you change a thought, if someone else changes a thought, energy moves slightly. And as those things continue to change, the information is going to change. So what I always suggest is that people continue to check in and don't just kind of steamroll forward with guidance. And just as things are shifting, check back in and see, now what's up? I feel something's a little shifted. Now what?
And do you believe that all prayers, we'll call them for this discussion, are answered in some way, shape, or form, maybe in line with what's best for your highest good?
I don't know. I don't know. What I know for myself is that as I stay connected, as I stay present, as I experience life, that my life is more and more wonderful. I can't know that for other people. I can just know that when you're present, when you're connected, when you know that you're never alone and that you're always cared for, you are. So I know that doesn't answer your question exactly, but
Right. No, I like your answer a lot. So just to be very specific, so what is your spiritual or religious belief? I think I lost her.
No. To put those things into words is such an interesting
right.
quandary. It's really what I just said a minute ago. I don't have a particular religion that I follow. I am... my spiritual belief truly is that when I stay connected, I'm going to just repeat myself because that's really all there is for me. When I stay connected, when I trust and have faith that what is coming through me is accurate for me, then I have the most amazing life. and I continue to. So, there's nothing else for me,
I'm going to push just a little bit more on this question.
Okay.
So this person or being or energy that you've been speaking with through your writing process, God, what do you think that is? Do you think that's a higher source, a universal energy? Do you think it's Jesus' Father? Do you think it's all of the above? Do you think what do you think?
So what I believe is that that's going to be different for every single person.
And do you think this source that's different for every person is benevolent?
Oh, yes, that I believe completely.
Do you believe in hell?
I believe in energy.
And the devil?
You're so cute. I don't have, it's funny because I call it God, and then, the other side of God is the devil in the normal, in our society. So I believe that what people call the devil is the other side of, it's kind of, we can't experience one without the other. If we didn't have things that we didn't enjoy that were going on, then we couldn't know and experience grace. So there are things that go on that are less likely for us to enjoy. I think that's what people end up calling the devil.
So hell on earth.
That kind of thing. You can have heaven on earth or hell on earth. Exactly. Thank you for that.
And likely you see some side of both of those things.
I think we all do.
And this is such a rich topic we could talk for hours about. But you mentioned earlier that you had spoken to God about reincarnation. And what did you learn about that?
Well, actually, I learned things that I didn't even believe. Like, that wasn't part of my belief system. I said to God, this is what I know about reincarnation. What do you got? What is it for you? And what I got, it was fascinating for me. Again, it's all energy. And what I got is that the me that I know is me in this lifetime is not the me that I know is me now in a past life or in a future life. So how that would work was, when I die, I will go back into, let's call it like a cosmic soup. And there are desires that draw energies together. And as those energies created within this desire, a desire to experience certain things, it's kind of like a magnet. This is what my imagining. So here's this desire to experience kind of starting to form. And as this desire to experience certain things continue to form, it magnetizes other strands of energy to it. And as those strands of energy continue to form, that manifests into a life.
So parts of me and parts of you might be the next professional athlete.
That's what I got. Yes. I thought it was fascinating.
Very, very fascinating. The whole process had to be amazingly fascinating. I'm sure you were waking up every day going, is this really my life?
Wow, right.
There's just so much to talk about. Have you encountered resistance through this process with your family, from your family or your friends about, how could you really be talking to God, Beth?
I've experienced more resistance within me than from other people. It's the most curious thing. So to answer your question directly, no, I have the most supportive people around me. It just blows my mind. I could just cry with how touched and grateful I am with the people in my life. So I don't think, my personal close friends have just been unbelievably supportive. I've gotten some weird kind of resistance and things from people like social media, those kinds of things, but not in direct relation to me and my family.
And what do you hope happens with your book?
Again, it's such a relief, honestly. Again, was guided to write it. I'm being guided to promote it and to get it out to as many people as possible.
While still remaining in the present moment.
Right, which is my practice. It is my growth edge. That's where my experience all comes from, is so how do I do this? Go market a book and stay really present and connected to God. Wow. It is a day-to-day, unbelievable, wonderful, not so wonderful, checking in, it's just such an experience. But what do I hope I have let's see, this is a really interesting thing, because what I'm learning is that to throw, it's back to the life purpose thing. It's like I have a purpose in order to experience. So now in these moments, my purpose is to market this book to as many people as possible. So I want to get this book to 1 million people. So I throw this purpose out in front of me. And then I stay as present as possible as I kind of move on this very non-linear path towards that purpose. Hope and what I'm let's see. So I guess I'm having trouble with the word hope only because there feels like there's some attachment to hope. Do you know? I don't hope it happens. I'm just going for it. Do you know? So like I'm imagining and expecting this book to get out to 1 million people.
Well, we will be beside you hoping to help that happen. So can I ask you a few lightning round questions?
Sure.
We could really talk about your experience in your book. We could have a podcast of 12 hours, I think, if we wanted, but that might be a little overwhelming. So do you think passion and purpose are the same things?
Passion and purpose are the same thing. If I could only say yes or no, I would say yes.
Okay. Do you think that everybody has a life purpose?
In the way I'm talking about it, yes.
On a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being high, how important is following your joy and igniting your life purpose?
That's not a yes or no question. I'm just teasing.
That would be a short answer question.
Okay. Following your joy, I would say it's a 10.
And did you ever quit your job to follow your purpose? And do you think somebody needs to?
Wow, that's so hard to answer in a yes or no question. Have I ever quit a job to follow my purpose? Yes. And does someone need to know? But God, I really would like to expound on those.
Next time. So here's a little bit longer one, but not too much. What brings you great, great joy?
Being present. Such great joy.
And if you unexpectedly amassed a good-sized fortune, what would you do differently?
Probably nothing. I'd give more money away.
Okay, just in giving more money away, how beautiful. And just in closing, is there a personal growth tool that you can recommend to our listeners?
Oh, my God, there's so many. Do you know what I recommend more than anything else in the whole world is that you cultivate a direct connection to whatever you call God. And so I'm actually going to send you to my website because I have what I call a trusted advisor dialogue process. And I think more than anything, if everybody knew that they weren't alone and that we're always cared for and we can always get the guidance that we need inside of ourselves, this planet would change. So on my website, you can sign up. I think it's at the bottom of my homepage now. It's called the Trusted Advisor Dialogue Process. And it really kind of walks you step by step through. And I suggest everybody try it.
Okay. And just say the URL of your website, please.
BethBanning.com. So easy.
So it's BethBanning.com, and that's the best way to connect with you,
is.
I would imagine.
All
right. And so I'll just say in closing that you can find a copy of Interviewed by God on Amazon by searching for the title or by searching for Beth's name. I'm sure she would love to hear from you after you've read it, and you can find her on many social media sites at Beth Banning. So, Beth, it's been my pleasure. I feel like we could go on, but we'll have to close for today.
Right.
Thank you so much for telling me about your experience and your book. I look so much forward to reading it, and I look forward to what's next for you.
I do, too. It was great talking to you.
Thank you so much.
Right.
So for those of you listening, if you liked what you heard today, please subscribe to the Life Purpose Advisor podcast on iTunes or Stitcher Radio and give us your feedback through a review or a rating. And if there's somebody that you want to hear about, some purpose that you'd like to hear more from them, please let us know and we'll see what we can do to get them on here with us.